Good evening, and welcome to Debate Amongst Friends. Tonight on the show, we will be discussing Raw and SmackDown results, some NFL and NBA updates, some updates on Michael Jordan, Ray Rice, and Russell Westbrook, starting now.
Ladies and gentlemen of the internet, welcome to Debate Among Friends, live on Mixlr. Like us on our Facebook page under the same name, or go to www.facebook.com/debateamongfriends. This is the 12th edition of this podcast. We're glad you decided to join us tonight. I am the professor, and mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? Why, it's you, doctor, not those pissant patients, who's ready to lay out as much knowledge as possible, and it'll feel like you got hit by the coup de grace. Doctor, how you doing tonight?
Good, Professor Plus.
Professor Plus. We got ourselves a great lineup going for us tonight. We're going to talk about some NBA, so a little bit of football news as well too, and some WWE. Let's just get ourselves right into it.
So we witnessed the first new era of the WWE, Raw and SmackDown.
You know,
there were some reads. You had some reads out there.
The professors sometimes have reads, and shout out to Mike Ross for instilling the knowledge of being able to anticipate things, aka reading things to a point to where you can predict things before they happen.
Because I wasn't buying it.
But this is looking much better.
But is it looking better? Is it looking better because it reminds us of what we used to see?
To use a old phrase, as day goes by. Shout out to Family Matters.
I'm just saying, it's like, this is what we used to see. So the kids now are going to get a chance to see what wrestling really is, the storytelling, the promos. Can we get some good promos?
They actually had those cutaway promos as people was coming down to the ring, which was like a huge nostalgic flashback for me.
Nostalgic.
Like, everything was just nostalgia.
It was perfect. Now, I just think that it's one of those situations where now I feel like the reins, no pun intended.
Oh, no, there was pun intended there.
Have been lifted off of us. It's been lifted off of us. This empire. It's no longer about what was built in Rome, because Rome wasn't built in a day. And
stop it. Those puns are just.
I'm just so happy that he didn't win. I mean, I was expecting him to win. Everything pointed him winning, but the question that I posed on Twitter, which of course my feed is TL Double.
Follow him. He's actually pretty good, ladies and gentlemen.
Why push? I mean, I hate to say it like this because Finn Balor is great, but why push Finn Balor for WWE Raw side here instead of giving some of the other people who we've been talking about, the talented people that we've been talking about, a chance? Yes, I know he was drafted 3rd overall. Oh, God, Finn Balor 3rd overall. Makes sense.
Absolutely.
But why pass on, I guess, the Cesaros, the Kevin Owens, the, those... Yeah, well, I mean, you like Sami Zayn. I'm not a big Sami Zayn fan. Yeah, I'm just not feeling him.
I mean, granted, it didn't really help when he, nearly killed himself at Battle.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that spot right there, I cringed pretty badly. Like, no.
Yeah, I'm not really feeling him. I don't know. Maybe it's the limitations on his moves, because everybody talks about him, and what I've seen so far, he's no Shinsuke.
Ooh, we have to talk about that one, but let's talk about some of the things that we really enjoyed between Raw and SmackDown for the WWE, and then we could talk about missed opportunities. I think more for the SmackDown side.
Yes, SmackDown definitely dropped the ball a little bit, but we can get to Raw. I did like, again, that the reins were removed, no pun intended again. I thought, with the no, listen, not the New Day, they need to drop that. And that's what I was saying. I think that could be a missed opportunity. Maybe it's time for the New Day to think about splitting. And maybe it's not the New Day itself. Maybe it's just Xavier Woods coming off and, they're moving on from that. But
That's possible.
I think it's definitely going to happen. But I think I was pretty impressed, except for his slight stutter, with Enzo and Big Cass. Their promo before their match was pretty good. He did say, "Yeah, baby, I like it raw," which is outstanding.
Oh my god, that was like when I heard that live. At first, I was like, "Did he really say that?"
He did.
And I was like, "Is this the new era now, as everyone's calling it? Because we already had the new era, which lasted only a couple of months.
Is this the new old new era?
This is the new old new antique, brand new Corvette era."
I mean, because it's almost like you looked at this Raw and you said, "Okay, all we're missing now is DX." Mm-hmm. and Ted Turner's WCW on TNT, the NWO doing their thing. And it was almost like Raw said, "Hey, we've got competition somewhere." It's almost like they counted TNA as competition.
Oh, God.
Which I'm gonna get to that later. We should definitely talk about that. I've seen some posts online on Facebook that keeps claiming that TNA is just a world class above the WWE. Have you seen those?
I've seen them in some of the forums that I'm under. Shout out to No DQ. They do a great job with everything that they do. But there are a lot of TNA trolls out there.
Yes.
I mean, there's been so many posts where I've read they have pictures of like Monday Night Raw with empty seats saying, "Oh, look at this. They don't have any seats here." Knowing dang well that they probably got there 4 hours early, so there's not a butt in the seats.
And it's like TNA has nothing but they have some homegrown wrestlers. Really all the wrestlers come from the same place. I mean, let's just be honest here. You either come from Japan, you come from Mexico, or they just build you up in whatever development team they have. But
are we talking about the NBA D League?
I mean, you might as well say some of those guys are D League.
Oh.
I mean,
are they main event players? Are they B+ players? Or are they D players?
I think a lot of the people.
You're not an A guy.
No.
You're not a B guy.
Some of the guys in TNA, I think if they went over, even if they were in WCW, I think they would be a lot of B-listers. Like a few of them are talented. Honestly,
Yes.
You know me. The main guy, I think, that should be heavyweight champion of any wrestling promotion that he goes to. You know where I'm going with this.
AJ Styles.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. This podcast has been fun.
This tonight is brought to you by
Dylan! That's the end of the show. No, AJ Styles. I did see the Phenomenal Forum that he did yesterday was pretty good. I will give him credit for that. The Phenomenal Forum, but
like
not
2
that
months.
Not
like
that
3 months.
Not that.
Like for the past year.
Not that stupid Styles clash though.
There was a story about that, about how he almost injured John Cena with said Style clash.
Did he?
Yes. You should probably check that one out.
Well, this is what I said. This is what I was gonna say. Only person I think that deserves to have the title anywhere he goes. And of course, this would be different in the old style of wrestling, which is where the big boys play, and that's not that pissant Jay Lethal. I mean, I think Jay Lethal should be champion anyway. I would love to see Jay Lethal versus Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins versus, I think it'd be great matches. I think Finn Balor is going to probably lose to Seth Rollins. I'm hoping, because I just think it's too fast. Like, wow.
I mean, who else had like a huge rise like that?
Yeah, like that fast, where it's like, oh my god, like, wham, here you go. And to be quite honest with you,
don't be surprised if they let Balor win it at SummerSlam. Don't be too surprised.
Easy.
Think
That
about
would
it
be
like this: between him and Seth Rollins, who's hotter?
Shinsuke.
Okay, not
they're planning,
including Shinsuke.
unless that's their plan, because right now WrestleMania is looking like Bailey versus Sasha Banks, Shinsuke versus Finn Balor. Right now, they're setting it up for this grand match, and it's crazy because they still haven't brought the likes of somebody like Samoa Joe up, who I really think can make a push for some of those lower belts.
Absolutely.
But here we are. You don't want to bring in another mid Carter where you have your Sami Zayn, your Kevin Owens, your Rusevs, and now you got this Braun Strowman guy who's going to beat up jobbers for the next 5 to 6 months. You know what I mean? Like, why would you want him to be beating up jobbers when somebody like him, with his size, should be potentially fighting against somebody like Brock Lesnar?
Ooh, we have to talk about that one too.
Brock!
But I'm glad that you mentioned jobbers because they brought back making a monster heel and a legit monster heel. There was 2 squash matches on WWE Raw. One for for what's his name, Strowman.
Strowman, yeah.
Yep. And the other one for The Rock's cousin, Nia Jax.
And she doesn't need a jobber.
She needs a larger moveset.
She does.
So does anyone but you, Roman.
I love the fact that he's doing that razor's edge with the sit down. You knew I was going to bring it
up. Not
up.
a finishing move. Okay, let's
so
get this off the table. Okay,
it's so
you
beautiful.
put out there on Twitter. You contacted a lot of people who we follow on Twitter, and I'm Ken86 at Twitter, ladies and gentlemen. So definitely give me a follow.
TO.
But you asked that same question. You said this is a great move. I'm glad he started to use it, and I replied, and I got a couple of likes because of it. It don't mean peanuts unless he could win matches with it.
But see, here's the issue
Not
with
to mention that not only does he do that move, but Sheamus.
Don't you say Sheamus. Don't you say Sheamus. I thought we had this conversation. Sheamus
and Matt Broken Matt Hardy
oh my God.
also does the flipping move.
Matt
and we're
Hardy,
talking about the Razor's Edge, ladies and gentlemen.
version 7.
Version 22.22.
Right. Repeating, of course. I mean, don't talk about Matt Hardy and Sheamus. Sheamus does the
All I'm saying is
bro
one of
kick.
your biggest arguments to why you dislike, let's not even use the word hate. You dislike certain movesets is it could look powerful for a guy, but if a woman does it, it doesn't look strong anymore.
That's not what I was saying.
That was one of your arguments. That was one of your arguments.
We must have been talking about the Styles Clash. Because that's the only move that doesn't transition well the opposite way.
Because I've seen females do the F5.
And that's what I'm saying. A female doing the F5 probably looks still as sweet as Brock Lesnar doing the F5 if they have the strength to muscle them over there. If they don't, then it probably just looks like a broken fireman's carry.
I mean, Charlotte does the figure 4,
which is a figure,
and makes it look even weaker with the figure 8.
I think that's because her legs are so long.
Her legs,
and all the other legs are so short, so it looks weird.
But doctor, but all of Stacy Keibler, friend.
But all of the I hate to say this, and please excuse me. All of the female submission moves look weird because of how flexible women are.
Yes,
like when Sasha Banks puts in that bank statement, it's like I'm thinking they're going to die. Yes, because I'd be like, oh my God. Their spine. But then you'd be like, okay, well, women are a little flexible. They probably do some yoga, they probably can really, but I mean, my goodness, she pulls back well beyond any.
There's a video out there if you want to check it out where Natalya put, I think it was Summer Rae in the sharpshooter, and you know how the sharpshooter looks.
I do.
Imagine her stitching back further.
It's crazy.
Until her head is on the mat.
And that's too far. And I think I've seen that. But it's like, wow, Bret Hart might have sat down straight with his back still straight. But
wait, really quick question. Cause I know you're gonna go there, but I have to ask this question first. Who does the weakest sharpshooter?
It's The Rock.
Okay, good.
Clearly The Rock. Next would probably be maybe Sting.
Sting.
The Rock, yeah, I don't know what The Rock was doing because his arm was so high and it was like,
It
what are
just
you
looks so
doing?
weird. Like a lot of the Rock's movies just look weird. But go ahead, finish up your point, sir.
But I just think that those moves, some of them just don't look well. I like Roman Reigns with that razor's edge into the sit down because it shows that they're still working on his move set at least. But
But he
I think
did.
that should be a signature
But
move.
he basically had the John Cena syndrome of having the 5 moves of death.
I mean,
And he did that for like 3 flipping years.
that's because for the
The
first year and a
reason
half, people
why,
loved it.
and here's the problem. The reason why the fans have now turned away from Roman Reigns is the fact that he hasn't enhanced his moveset at all.
And that's why they're trying to do it right now, which I commend them for.
At the time where he was really hot, and everyone loved him,
When he wasn't saying anything, by the way.
when he wasn't saying anything,
That could be why they
succotash.
like him.
Suffering succotash. But they didn't pull the trigger. I think if they did it then, they wouldn't have to worry about it later on. But because they waited, I think, like an extra year, and after the Shield broke up, he didn't have that same veil of dominance anymore.
See,
And
I
because
think
he didn't have that veil, like, people were just like, I mean, you're just like Cena, except you suck more.
John Cena's. See, for me, I think that and we have to move on, of course, but
Absolutely.
we got to get to SmackDown. But this is the last point for me.
We really don't need to go to SmackDown.
Yeah, I think for Roman, it's one of those situations where it's not that the people didn't like him because of his moves. I think they didn't like him because we all knew, the WWE said, this is the guy we're rolling with. We don't care what you say. We don't care what you like. This is the champion. We don't care if he's the bad guy.
Uh-oh.
We don't care if he's the good guy. But
he
the
that ganja guy?
WWE said
Is he that
he's
ganja
going to
guy?
be the guy regardless. And that's that. But SmackDown, sir, is pretty weird. Again, I saw that
New
phenomenal
era,
forearm.
same bleep. Shout outs to King for that line. Let's move on.
Let's say,
Anything else for WWE before you move on?
let's just say this last part, Dolph Ziggler.
Exactly. Okay, I'm done. Debates Among Friends brought
that's
to you
it.
tonight by Not Your Father's Ginger Ale. Small Town Brewery. Excellent drink. Pick it up at your local grocery store. Pick it up. And it's
Please
also
just-
brought to you by Stella Artois.
Please
Pick it up
respond
as
to
well,
the
too.
professor's tweet, please. Please, bless.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we try to do stuff live. This isn't scripted, ladies and gentlemen. So if you go into our Twitter, go onto Debates Among Friends Facebook page, you can give us your comments, your questions. We can read them out.
Absolutely.
As well as on the Mixlr site as well too. If you have any questions, put it out there. We can definitely check them out as well too. We try to answer as much as we can. We haven't had any yet, but our anticipation we get some soon.
Absolutely.
That's doctor's reads.
Yes.
That's enough plugging the show. Let's move on. Ray Rice, sir.
Ray Rice. So I read a report a couple of days ago, maybe last week, that suggested that Ray Rice said that he would donate his entire salary, if signed, for the 2016 season to domestic violence awareness. Your thoughts on that, sir?
I know a lot of people would necessarily say, you know what, this is a publicity stunt. He's just trying to get himself into the news. And you know what? You're right. He is. Definitely trying to get himself in the news. Do I think he'll do it? Yeah. I legitimately think that he'll sit there and do such a thing because his image is heavily damaged.
Certainly.
He believes, and his camp believes, that they need to do anything possible to put him back in a good light. Not just for his endorsement, but just to put him back on the field.
Yeah.
Was it the summer? The summer of shame for the NFL.
Yeah, that was pretty rough.
It
and
cast
I mean,
a pretty bad light on,
And it was-
on the players' conduct, on the way that the commissioner acts up, the rule sets, everything changed.
which is a good segue, I mean, for that summer for another person who is a former Dallas Cowboy, Greg Hardy, who can't find he can't find a home at this time.
No, he can't.
But I
He
don't know. A
can't.
part of his thing is that he really, really became a cancer, so to speak, in the Dallas Cowboy locker
Ooh.
room as well on the sideline. I remember a few games where he was really like causing some ruckus over there with some of his teammates.
And we have a couple people listening live, and some of them might be Dallas Cowboys fans. And we apologize. We're not really sorry for
Oh
sitting
yeah,
here
I'm
to
not really
bash your team a little
apologizing.
bit.
I mean,
I'm
I
just
don't-
trying to say, here on Debates Among Friends, we like to say the facts because the people demand it,
no, we're not
as well
doing
as our
that.
opinions.
We're not doing that.
There's
Cowboys.
no PC here.
Yeah, I mean, I will get on any team because, like I said, I like the Cowboys. Not as my team, of course. I think they have the potential. I just don't think certain teams have built to win the Super Bowl. The Cowboys are a different story because they have a dynamic offensive line, and that's where it's kind of rough. And I wish they wouldn't have broke up with DeMarco Murray, but it happened, and that kind of put them in a little bind.
I also believe that DeMarco Murray didn't want to break up as well too.
Yeah. Now that's a good segue into Ezekiel Elliott, who's also in some issues.
Now
Have
that news right there, it and we had the discussion a lot off the podcast about whether or not certain things are legitimate or certain things are setups for people to fail.
and the fact that I
What
saw
is your thoughts about that?
the fact that I saw that there were reports that he said he had text messages to prove that he was being set up. Like, I'm not big on domestic violence. I'm not big on rape. I'm not big on racism. I'm not big on anything that causes harm to another person.
Absolutely. Debates
My
among friends.
people friendly. I mean,
We are people friendly.
Yeah.
We embrace the love and not the hate.
My thing is when people lie, if this person's lying,
Of course.
but when people do lie about these things, it just casts a different light. And I think personally, and I think there has been some debates on Facebook and some other social media that I've seen where people believe strongly that if you lie about these things, you should go to jail.
Well, someone put out there on the chat. Uh, Nickname is Nice. 1985 said, "Go Cowboys." Once again, understanding, but at the same time, we have to tell like it is. The doctor is a Buccaneers fan and will be just as rough on his team.
I will.
Standing with my Knickerbockers, standing with someone else's Miami Heat,
Rockets.
Rockets. I mean,
yeah.
everyone.
Yankees.
There is no veil of protection for any team.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're all objective. We talk. We just have a good time. Whatever comes up, comes up. I mean, I'm gonna say some controversial things. He's gonna say some controversial things,
I
and
want
it
to
is.
say controversial things.
But I mean, with Ezekiel Elliott being a rookie,
Being a rookie, he hasn't even stepped foot. I mean, and there's two rookies that potentially won't be able to step foot on the field for the Cowboys.
I mean, what can you do? What can you do? I mean, they have the rookie symposium. They have everything in place. I mean, it's really to the point where when you're drafted, and I think we talked about this about another situation when you quote unquote come up in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to literally change your phone number, stop hanging out with the people you hang around.
Yep.
You gotta cut them off. And I'm cutting you off right now.
Cut them off so you can succeed because there are people out there who will attempt to do anything and everything possible.
And I tell you, it's similar to, I don't know if you've ever played the story mode in NBA, the NBA 2K16 series, the one that Spike Lee did. But there's a part in the we're gonna say movie because that's basically that's pretty much what it is. It's almost like He Got Game 2016. But in this cinematic experience that you're going through, there's a part where the main character, is having an argument with his best friend in the movie, whatever, and he's like, everybody's telling him,
universe.
yeah, it's like everybody's telling them, the owner's telling them, the agent's telling them, hey, you gotta leave this guy alone. You gotta leave this guy alone. He's bringing you down. He's in the club. He's spending your money. He's representing your name out there, giving you a bad rep. And he's just like, man, that's my friend. That's my friend. We've been friends for a long time. And sometimes when you make it to the big league, sometimes you got to let those things
let those
go.
people go.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I completely agree.
especially if they're not bringing positivity to your circle.
Ooh, well, doctor, don't you dare be sour.
Don't you dare be sour. Clap your
But
hands.
but I completely agree with you though. I mean, and just going back to the Ezekiel Elliott situation, I mean, this is a much more strange situation compared to a lot of the other ones that happen. Because this person actually has evidence.
But he has,
Allegedly has
Allegedly.
evidence to disprove this story.
and I hate to be one of those guys that's like, well, because people be like, oh, you're just protecting him or being supportive because he's a football player. And it's like, no, I mean, I'm being supportive. Number one, he's a young guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, easy target because he's such a
Easy
popular guy. He was a popular guy at Ohio State, and he's going to be a popular guy now in Dallas. So it's like,
I mean,
easy target,
I mean, the professor's about to say something, ask the doctor something, because I know the people in the chat, they want to know. The people who are not watching it, but they're going to catch it in the archives, they want to know, two fat boys. They want to know, does the doctor believe that partners in relationships can be as vindictive and as vile as potentially the person who's actually going for those sports as a professional?
Rephrase the question.
Well,
Rephrase.
think about the the rookies situation.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say hypothetically that his claim is true and he actually didn't do this, and this person is actually trying to just set him up for failure because this person is feeling a certain type of way.
Right.
Do you believe that there is that people should put more thought in that avenue of thinking when trying to judge someone?
Well, I think that's the problem.
Because Stephen A. Smith sort of talked about it. Shout out to Stephen A. Smith. He sort of talked about that, but he said it in a
Passive,
asinine way that not only put his foot in his mouth, but also shot his other foot as he was doing it.
Well,
because he made the right points.
Mm-hmm.
It was the conveyance and the dictation of those phrases. Shout out to Stephen A. Smith, because I'm gonna say big words too.
I mean, come on, you have to.
It was the delivery of the message that rubbed everyone the wrong way. But what he said had some truth to it.
Of course. But here's the problem, though. I mean, it's a good question and a good point. In the media, we don't talk about the media portraying things that it's like, hey, if we say bread, the media will say, hey, he said white bread. You know what I mean? Instead of wheat bread. You know what I mean? Like, they have a way of saying, for example, recent article, there was a legend's son, I can't think of who it was, who came out and said that James Harden's friends jumped him. I'm not sure if you saw that article.
I did not see that.
I could definitely pull that up while we're talking, but
also you need to cite your sources.
Oh, well, it was Bleacher Report. It was definitely Bleacher Report.
Come on, doctor. You're a doctor.
Sorry.
You went to college. You got to cite your sources.
It was definitely the Bleacher Report.
Is it primary or secondary? The people need to know.
Definitely primary, sir. But the problem is that we shouldn't be judging anyone. God judges. People who are in the profession of being a judge hand down those sentences. You're the professor, I'm the doctor, those are judges. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it isn't for us to say, hey, that person's wrong for doing this, and we don't know. Similar to the conversation which started this whole thing, when we go back and look at the history of debate among friends, the whole thing was started on the debate about Bill Cosby versus Jared.
It was. It was
Bill Cosby versus Jared. There's a picture of
Ladies and
Jared.
Gentlemen, this discussion between myself and the doctor
went to Facebook.
Probably lasted a good month.
45 to 50 posts later, we're still, people still talking about it. It's like, well, why don't you guys start a podcast? And it's like, we're going to start a podcast one day and we're going to talk about it. And here we are. We're talking about sports, but every once in a while we get into these social issues like this one, where it's like, hey, there's certain people who are saying, well, that woman was assaulted, or she was raped, or she was done this to. He's a football player, so hey, it's a black football player, young, he's strong, he can overpower her, all these things, and they're just twisting the knob. The water's on, but now you're twisting the knob, and the water's coming out of the faucet harder and harder here, and nobody said, hey, who is this person? You know what I mean? It's like, oh, she said it, must have happened. And that's where we have a problem. That's where judging people based on how they look, judging people based on where they're from, judging people based on how their hair is, or how they dress, or whatever the case may be, how they talk, where they come from, what city they're born, their parents, whatever the case you're judging, what they eat, their religion, whatever it is, judging people not on who they are.
But let's think about this. Let's put this in a full view perspective real quick. We're still talking about the Greg Hardy situation. We're still talking about the Ray Rice situation. We're going to keep talking about the Ezekiel Elliott situation until we find out whether or not he did it. Mm-hmm. But, riddle me this, Doctor. Is anyone still talking about that Stanford swimmer?
No, they're not. And I thought that was terrible. And I was so mad because...
And there was evidence. There was video.
Somebody pulled him off. I mean, what the heck? Somebody pulled him off the girl. Somebody pulled him off the girl.
And all this other stuff happened.
And he got a slap on the wrist. Oh, he can't swim for the USA team. Oh, my God. He can't swim for the USA team. Oh, my God.
But it goes to that whole double standard that, people like us, people like our millions of debates among friends, fans, we sit there and we observe these things because we're not idiots.
But that goes back to the point about judges delivering sentences. So it's like, we're going to judge. I can judge him. You know what I mean? We can judge him because what he did is a representation of who he is.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? I don't care what anybody says. You don't slip up and say, hey, I raped that girl that day, but that's not me. You know what I mean? That's like saying, I can see, this is not like, hey, I had a beer yesterday. I'm not alcoholic. Very well possible. But you don't say, hey, I raped that girl, I sexually assaulted that girl, I beat that girl up, and say you're not a woman beater, not a rapist, not a abuser. You know what I mean? An unconscious woman. That's deep rooted. Yes. And back to the story that I was talking about was Moses Malone Jr., who had got beat up last week, said that he was beat up because he made some critical remarks about James Harden's camp. His camps cost, I think, $200 or something in Houston, and I guess Moses Malone Jr. had said, "Wow, I think he said Donald Driver or somebody else in the area does free camps, but to get into James Harden's camp, you got to pay $250." And he feels as though he got beat up for that. So one of the Bleacher Report writers actually said and found out, he said, well, no one actually said that this happened. This was allegedly. So all of the stories titled and read, Moses Malone tells cop he was beaten up by James Harden's friends. But this was never proven. They just put title, Moses Malone beat up by James Harden's friends.
But did we just had a similar situation?
We sure probably did.
With Draymond Green, though? Like, didn't we just have the same situation?
Well, see, the only thing about that is that Draymond Green probably really did punch that guy in the face.
Well, I mean, of course, because he paid the fine. I mean, it wasn't a big fine. But it was a fine.
I mean, he probably did punch that guy in the face. I don't know.
It still goes back to the argument that we made about, these athletes being out, doing whatever, and having to deal with heckling fans. Or having to deal with people who just has a problem and just want to step up.
And I don't remember what it was, but I feel like me and my wife had a conversation about this years ago, where it's like once you become a celebrity or a professional athlete or whatever, you basically give up your right to be private.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Yep. Like, people are digging in people's garbages. People are, they're doing all kinds of crap out there. But I mean, let's not get too wrapped up on this, because we can talk about that stuff all day.
Think about it like this, though. you know, and maybe it's the scale of stardom that also need to be in consideration. Because when we went to Evo,
You did go to Evo.
you know, you didn't see that with a lot of people there.
And that was the thing about Evo that was kind of weird, and I thought about that. Even when we met Mike Ross, shout out to Mike Ross.
Mike Ross, my man.
And we met a few people who have some big titles. I mean, they didn't have that, hey, I'm a celebrity, don't talk to me. You know what I mean? Like let's say when you saw Daigo, everybody knows Daigo. He came up, sat 2 rows from us. Nobody really bothered him.
Actually, he was 1 row in front of us.
Bill Russell was sitting a few rows ahead of us. I mean, of course,
no,
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
The people need facts, doctor.
I'm sorry.
If it was Bill Russell, I probably would have ran up to him the entire time. Sweet Ken, I would have got there. Sweet Ken, that security guard, and I said, "That's Bill Russell." I'm shaking his hand. I'm gonna have 15 pictures with him.
My bad.
And I'm gonna sit there and be a fanboy, and not a single person's gonna stop me.
It was Walton. My bad. Bill Walton. I'm sorry.
Still very important,
yes,
but you know, one of my favorites, Bill Russell. If he was there, I would have been crying like a schoolgirl.
Oh my god.
I admit it.
But I'm
sorry.
But you went up and took pictures with them, and they weren't like, "Hey, I'm a celebrity, get away from me."
Absolutely.
That was the main thing.
I mean, we was, you know, just literally around them. Like, you were standing next to the 2016 Evo champion.
I did.
You stood next to him for a good 10 minutes.
For a while, we actually bumped into each other, and it was just like, "Excuse me," kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, and I think we were like behind Sonic Fox. We were behind a few people.
Exactly.
And it was like nothing, you know, because and that's where it's kind of strange, because it's like these guys are going to be on TV, they're going to be well known, but the main thing is they didn't act like they were these gods, so to speak, and that's where nobody's talking any trash, nobody's telling anything. But I mean, of course,
people talking trash, but but
it wasn't
that's the nature of the beast, though.
I'm not talking about that kind of trash. I'm talking about outside world trash, like, hey, you're black, you're white, you're Asian, you're this. Yeah. It was, you know, it wasn't like that. Oh yeah, I'm gonna beat you up in Street Fighter, of course, but it wasn't anything outside of the games.
Absolutely.
The hecklers, like, what was a heckler in a bar? Hey, Draymond, you guys lost. Okay, Draymond. But if he said, "Hey, Draymond, you're so black," or something like that, I don't blame him for punching him in the face. You know what I mean? Because I'm sure it had to be something extenuating that would have made him want to go out and risk getting fined, suspended, so on and so forth. Has to.
Absolutely.
But we got to move on. We do have a few more topics to cover.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you a question, sir.
All right. The professor will try not to be too controversial.
This might not be too bad. So let's say we go back to 2005, 2006, when we were young doctor and young professors, and you know, we were little.
Shout outs to St. Peter's University.
St. Peter's University, and you know, I did actually join your intramural team one year.
Go Peacocks.
And then the next year, I tell you, yeah, I'm going to play for you, and then I go out and join another team, the team that just won the championship. How do you take that?
I mean, for me being a competitor, I'll be okay with it if it was me, just because it gives me more fire to want to beat you further. Like, I don't sit there, I don't catch feelings about it, I don't feel sour about life or anything like that. But if you go, okay, I'm going to circle this date on my calendar when I face up against the doctor and his team. And when I actually play one-on-one, I'm going to say, I'm going to defend the doctor. And he's not going to score a single point. But that's the way that I think.
You can't teach that.
And you can't teach that.
So as irony here, I just got I got another update. It's so funny.
Okay.
NBA rumors from the Bleacher Report. ESPN actually recanted the report here, so now we can't even really go into it. But let's just say,
how many times ESPN recanted the report, though?
But let's just say it wasn't recanted. Do you think it would matter?
Shout out to the sergeant, by the way. I see you, sir. I see you, sir.
Would it matter if Kevin Durant told Russell Westbrook that he was going to re-sign with the Thunder before he held his free agency meetings? Would it matter?
No.
I mean, would it matter? Because right after they lost, when they blew that 3-1 lead.
We just had off season where someone promised to do something and went behind on his word.
It happens all the time.
Like, the notion of and we kept talking about this. We're old school guys.
Hey.
You know, the doctor and I are 60-minute men. We're old school.
Man.
You know, we value the handshake, but
Yes.
we're also realists. We understand that
Business.
the notion of a handshake, the notion of doing business, having agreements with a handshake, is gone, ladies and gentlemen.
It's as real as DeAndre Jordan at home.
Oh boy.
That's all I'm gonna say right there. DeAndre at home. Doc Rivers rings the doorbell and says, "Big man, you're not going anywhere. You're gonna be right in LA, through thick and thin. I don't care how many free throws you miss."
All I can think of is a Ric Flair meme.
Just saying. So,
he'll just taking off his clothes, saying, "I'm not going anywhere."
and I'm cutting you off right now from leaving.
And I'm gonna cut you off right now.
So I mean, why would he get so upset with Kevin Durant? For even if I know in the press conference he says I haven't really thought about it. Russell told me, he knows that I have to make this decision for myself. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take the time to make the decision.
But my question is, how much of it is him being legitimately upset about it, and how much is it the over exaggeration from the media?
I think it's 50-50. I'm sure he probably is
because
upset.
of course he's a little upset about it. But
Because
for him to state it the way that he did, and for him to the reaction from it,
that's where it's being
I think
recanted.
it was more goading from the media.
Yeah.
That enticed him to be a little bit more upset about it than him legitimately being upset about it.
And that's where
Because when it happened, he didn't immediately say anything.
I guess that's where being recanted is really, really important because, like I said, the Thunder are going to be good. I still think they're going to be top 4 in the West.
5 or 6. It depends on how they. It depends on how they do during the season.
It
depends on how.
In the West, they got some good pieces back. I mean, yeah, you lose Kevin Durant. I think Russell Westbrook is going to try and go on a tear.
Well, he's going to be the MVP this year.
Yes.
I said this before. Russell Westbrook is the most angriest guy in NBA right now.
Unless he gets hurt.
He is the only piece of our childhood dream of an old school NBA player who doesn't want to join up with anyone and wants to beat everyone.
So,
he will be MVP this year.
I agree. I agree.
Bar none.
So, last topic on the agenda for today is an interesting story of a childhood legend.
Yes. For those who don't know him, he is regarded as the greatest of all time for the NBA.
Now, let me tell you this, because I had an argument probably a year or two ago about this, where because he doesn't or wouldn't provide funds for this, or because he was doing this with his money or funding that with his money, he wasn't a situation.
Okay.
Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan.
Michael
Jordan. Michael Jordan.
Uh-oh.
I'm just saying. There's a little Space Jam there. So Mike actually donated money to put an end or help in the, how can I put this? The cease of crime in the African American community.
Okay.
With so much of that crime, I guess, being portrayed as kids are being killed over his shoes for all these years. I mean, is it too late to rebuild his image because he had done so many other things with his money?
No, not really. I
mean,
when you think about it, though, I mean,
it's his money.
It's his money. He's free to do whatever he wants with it.
The argument before was Michael Jordan isn't a good guy because he supports prisons. He has stocks or something like that. Stock in prisons.
Yeah. But I mean, once again, when you think about it, though, why not?
That's what I was I'm thinking too. Why not? And I get it. Oh well, prisons are heavily populated by African American men. I get
it. Ethically, it's wrong. Absolutely, we agree with those people who think that he's a terrible guy for doing it. Ethically, business-wise, though, those same people who would say that would be the first ones.
I agree. Like you said I can make how much if I do this?
Exactly. You'll be the first people in line.
You said, wait.
So
So if I take $20 and I put it on this person right here,
and I could flip that into $500,000 in a year.
take that $20 right now.
You know, the back of your head, your conscience is telling you, maybe I shouldn't do that. But then the greedy part is saying,
Shut up.
Go out there and do that right now.
For $20, we don't have to. We could just skip lunch for the week.
Exactly.
And get this money.
Like, don't sit there and try to. Once again, it's the notion of, and this is what our main problem is with just media completely. And Nice 1985 just stated, yeah, it's too late because he never cared about African American community. I love MJ as my favorite b-ball player.
And I think that's where you have to separate what people do. Like, he's a basketball player. He's retired. Retirement is tough for everybody, whether you have money or have money. So he has to figure out a way to extend his money, which he can do that because he made a lot. He can extend it by investing in something that apparently in America is not going away. So he got to definitely go from there and said, hey, that's what he does. That's what he does with his money.
Absolutely. But once again, like the issue with today's society, and I don't even think we're at the peak of the information that we get these days.
I don't think so.
But the issue that we get, and it goes down into sports, it goes into politics, economy, it goes everywhere, is the fact that everyone has something to complain about.
Agreed.
And because they have something to complain about, one voice becomes two voices, and then from there, everyone decides just to ride on those two bandwagons and say, yeah, I really don't like this at all.
I get it, man.
I mean,
I don't know. I just think that people
the doctor and I goes on so many forums, and we read about people saying blah, blah, blah about this, and we're like,
yeah.
What are you talking about?
Because to me, it's like, have you done any fact checking? Like, have you?
Exactly.
And I'm not one to take someone else's word for it. Like, I'll give you an example. I mean, for me, this is one example. When, we're from the inner city, we're from Jersey City. Shout out to Jersey City.
Chill town.
But, doctor, professor, we're on the street, right? We're walking. We used to go to Vincent's Pizzeria, right?
Shout out to Vincent's Pizzeria.
We see a guy running in the opposite direction. What is he running from? Are we gonna stick around to see what he's running and run from?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. But this is different from information. See, now information, there's no real threat to education.
Nope.
So if you actually educate yourself on these situations and information, there's no need to run. We can run towards that, but physical.
But then the other issue is people run towards it, but then everyone's recording stuff now.
And that's another. That's where it's different now. See, when people before they say, "Oh, the NFL has been so bad with domestic violence." The NFL has probably always been bad with domestic violence. They would just know.
We can go to articles. We can go to the archives.
Yeah, let's
go to the tape.
Because
I'm pretty sure every single off season for the NFL, there's at least one domestic abuse case.
And the baseball, basketball, it's probably the same.
Well, not so much baseball and basketball.
Baseball probably is.
Baseball is usually performance enhancement.
Oh, baseball plays.
Baseball plus, and we haven't even talked about that. We got to get people to come onto the show to talk about some baseball because we're getting towards October.
We are
towards the playoffs.
I'm not gonna lie. That's the only part of baseball I watch is October. The chase for the gold. That is it. October.
Chase for the pennant.
Whatever. Chase for gold. Chase for pennant. The October Classics. I don't care what you call it. That's the only part I like about baseball is the playoffs because that's where you get the best pitching, you get the best hitting, you get the best baseball, period.
You get the best baseball. It's just like college basketball. It's just like college football.
Yeah, college basketball, there's nothing like March, which I feel like this March just kind of breezed by.
It did. But, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting down on time. We got ourselves a special track out there for tonight. Doctor, any last words out there for the people?
Just keep tuning in. Hopefully we get more and more people joining. I'm having a great time. The one thing we didn't talk about, which is I'll just throw a quick snippet in.
Let's do it.
the Atlanta Falcons released Devin Hester. I'm curious to see where he goes.
Did.
I think.
Well, and we talked about this too.
Yeah.
The kick returner, a punt returner.
The punt. I mean,
it's starting to become a little obsolete.
The kick returner definitely. The punt returner, because he can still get back there. So the punt returner.
It depends if they don't kick it out of bounds.
Well, for him, they would.
Of course.
Maybe. Unless you have that New York Giants Deshaun Jackson situation.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Shout out to those Giants fans out there. We apologize. Not really.
Not really. So, I mean, the kick return game is still alive. If you, like I said, Tampa Bay would welcome Devin Hester. We would have welcomed him a couple years ago if he wanted to come to Tampa. We got offensive coordinator. We got the head coach, both from Atlanta. Sure, we can use him somewhere in there. I'm just out there, Jason Light. If you're listening, I know you're a fan of the show and you're a fan of the Doctor TL Double, and you just let me know. I'll call Devin up myself and tell him to join the squad. Any last words, Professor?
No, just always having fun doing this show with you, Doctor. You know, we're just trying to become bigger as we always doing it for. I don't think I have any other snippets to talk about now that you did that. I mean, you know, just reading a lot of articles about the Aftermath Vivo and, you know, hearing, you know, stories about, like, how much things are growing. I believe there was an article I put out there, actually, talking about one of the esports events and how it is, the cash prize was like, oh, man, it was a lot of money. Like, it was over, like, almost $2 million was the pot, which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it's just like I was telling, you know, the Doctor and people who we talk to as well too. Esports is getting big. Esports is going to be so big. They're starting to show it on ESPN now. It's going to take over so much stuff. You don't have to believe me, but you'll see it. So that's why, you know, 2017, the Doctor's looking to become the Evo champion of the whole world.
Killer Instinct.
And I will attempt to be the 2017 Evo champion in Street Fighter. I'm not guaranteeing anything because I used to be really good. I know I stink now, but that's why I practice make perfect. But enough that, we digressed and side quested enough. Shout outs out there for the game theory. But thank you very much for tuning in tonight. We're going to leave you with a track by one of my favorite, well, yes, definitely one of my favorite artists, Substantial. Q&5 shout outs. An Algorithm. Song is called Lasting Impressions featuring Wanda. Once again, I am the Professor.
And I'm the Doctor.
And we'll catch y'all next week. Thank you very much. Peace and love.
Deuces.
Merlin, y'all got me cons. Sub in the stock, come rock with us. DC, y'all got me cons. Hip Hop in the stock, come rock with us. Hey, VA, y'all got me cons. Joint John Crank, come rock with us. Worldwide, get live with us. Turn the volume way up, rock with us. We rockin' the world. Can't end before it begins. No one does it that don't, and we too old to play pretend. This is for my supporters, family, and friends. Might even stick by me like we were Siamese twins. Last I was generic, my status ain't that apparent. Came up on the low, like I be shopping in clearance. And I do, cause my biz more important than my appearance. Shouldn't just like the cover, but you can tell this shit is serious. The past is always present in the future. I ain't going nowhere but up. Was naming your favorite rapper for you was looking them up. Advising some legends for y'all acknowledge my presence. Marathon and you sprinting while minimizing my effort. Maximizing my gains. A rapper that's got some brains. Flew my family, got the country for 200 and some change. I be stacking the miles, so frequently on the flies. When you say above the clouds, it's easy to take them higher. Let's go, 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 battle tested and approved. Y'all behind it in your heart, ain't got fixated in your crew. Kinda guess we used to do with dudes battle over rhythms. Beatbox, lunch table, over trash man in your system. Hand claps, DJ. But eventually I moved on, cause unlike rappers nowadays, I make pretty good songs. I never shuck and jive with motherfuckers live. I make the type of music that help people reconstruct their lives. I know you love it, right? So put it on repeat. Still climbing like I don't know a peak. Flowing like you disabled, you sounded like you don't know a beat. Walking the aqua pan with loops, dirtier than Noah's feet. Couldn't play them to notice me, now they pickers, they know it's me. Hands turning like rotaries, knowing he's also totally exes who still ain't over me. Bringing loud and they over breeze. Respected globally, now they loving me locally. Urban legends surely repping MD, you better know where we at. But time will tell what will come from these youngins who met with me. Tan yellow, white, red ebony, all purple weaponry. Topple obstacles that stand between them and destiny. Haters, fakers, and shiners, like takers and coppers who wanna F up your chakras.